You're watching Breakfast Television on City TV. June is World Refugee Awareness Month, and according to Maclean's, Canada accepted about 28,000 refugees last year. Some of those people coming right here to the city of Calgary. More may arrive this summer, either through the refugee program or crossing the border into Canada and then seeking asylum. Fariborz Birjandian is here this morning to talk about the situation. Fariborz is the CEO of the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
And how many refugees are you expecting this year in the city?
In Canada, I think we just tallied our numbers for the last year. We had over 2,200 refugees from 3 different streams that they came to Calgary and are settling in Calgary. I think we are expecting a little bit more next year as the government of Canada has increased its number by 50% coming to Calgary. So we anticipate about 2,300 to 2,500 if everything is in place.
In place, yeah. Okay, and why? Why are we seeing an increase? And why did Canada raise the threshold?
I think Canada historically has been bringing 10% of our total immigration, which is now 350,000, and a humanitarian, and that is obviously refugees coming. But recently, with the changes in the United States, the administration in the past 2 years, we have a huge influx of people that they had different status in the United States, and they felt uncomfortable, and the administration they changed their policy toward refugee resettlement. So they are moving to Canada, and actually we had about 70,000 people in the last 2 years that just came from the United States. So that numbers concerns me. Most of them actually, the first wave they went to Quebec, mainly Haitian there, and they settled there. But the second waves are people from Venezuela, from Mexico, from Colombia, from Iraq, Syria, and some other countries that actually they are not staying in the east, and they are moving toward the west. And Calgary is one of the destinations actually they like to be.
Okay, and why Calgary?
I think Calgary is one
of the
of
support systems in place, or is it the?
Yeah, I mean, the CCIS, Calgary Catholic Immigration Society, with many other good organizations, and also a lot of volunteers, a lot of sponsor agreement holders. So Calgary is actually a city that is recognized internationally for some of these best practices in resettling refugees, the involvement of the volunteers with this group, the activities for the children, and the services we have done it. We've done it for 40 years, so hopefully we got good at it to do how develop refugees. That's why even when Canada decided actually to bring some Yazidi refugee that they were very much traumatized and they went through severe persecution, actually Calgary was identified as one of the center. Some of the advantage we have, again, CCIS with 40 years of experience in settling refugee. I came as a refugee myself with my family 31 years ago to Calgary, so obviously it has to be a good place for me to stay. And then we have an amazing refugee clinic that actually are specialized in the refugee health, and we have Calgary Center for Resiliency, which is a CCIS project, which also deals with the trauma and the mental health issues. So putting all that together, I think we have created an environment that is actually basically welcomes the refugee, makes them feel comfortable. And I think that is one of the key that we have recognized. When refugees come, obviously they come with a lot of fears, and also they have a lot of hope. So we have learned to identify those fears and try to eliminate those fears and build on their hopes. And I think that's why it's working.
And how can people, like regular citizens of the city, how can we help?
I think there are issues. Again, this month is the International Refugee Awareness Month. The refugee crisis in the world is becoming more serious and more challenging. Again, I remember when I became a refugee 32 years ago, we had only about 15 million people displaced or refugee. Today we have 65 million.
Wow.
Just if you pay attention, I'm sure people pay attention in South America with the situation in Venezuela, they actually 2.5 million people became refugee. Everybody knows about the Syria. So we are becoming the whole situation becoming quite fragile, and people move when there is a situation that they cannot really tolerate and leave. So they move to the neighboring country, and then we have the influx from there to countries like Canada. We are very fortunate in a way that we are actually isolated because we've got the border, United States, and the oceans. But as you know, the refugees in Europe, actually there's a huge concern that people, a million people could move to Europe and basically create a lot of challenges.
Yeah, challenges indeed. All right. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing this perspective from here in the city of Calgary. Always good to chat with you. 7:27. Still have a lot to come this morning on Breakfast Television. Your news headlines.